So we do have reporter Bishop Basil Henson from Jamaica. Reporter, did I say reporter? Welcome, sir, and good morning.
Hi, good morning, sir.
Very good. All right. So just give us, well, of course, a devastating hurricane, and we do empathize. And but just give us as to what Jamaica is looking like. Obviously, electricity, flooding. Just give us an overview as to the state of Jamaica presently and where was most hit.
All right. So before we get to all of that, let's look at the build-up. We have been, going through the reporting for almost a week before the hurricane came. So people would have started buying supplies from last week, Wednesday, Thursday, into the entire week, and the hurricane did not hit us until yesterday at about 12 o'clock, somewhere there. But the entire country has been affected, but the main damage was done to about 3 parishes, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. It's more to the west that has been hit. Same place that Beryl went. So it's the same place that has been affected again this time around by a category 5 hurricane. We have had some hospitals that have been affected badly. We've had about 4 hospitals that have been affected. This morning, we are not the worst. I'm looking over I'm in the Kingston and St. Andrew area in the city, and we were spared. So I believe by tomorrow we should be up and running in this part of Jamaica. But those parishes that I mentioned, they will take a lot to recover. They're going to need a lot. We have had house being overtaken by flood waters. Swallowed up. We have had it's just too much to talk about in those parishes. They are really devastating, real devastation. But we take hope from the fact that we're a praying country, and we pray a lot, and we believe God' divine hand was at work. And so we are grateful for that. Because if it wasn't for His divine hand, Jamaica would be gone.
Wow. All right.
We have never experienced anything like this.
All right. Were there any fatalities, injuries? Speak to that.
Right. There were some fatalities. There were about 3 fatalities, but not from the hurricane. But it was more from preparation for the hurricane. So, for instance, there were a gentleman who was cutting down a tree, and the tree fell on him. And he died. There was another one that was on a roof and fell off. So those were injuries, those were deaths that weren't necessarily caused by the hurricane, but from the preparation. Those persons, we haven't heard of any death directly from the hurricane as yet. I don't know, if we will hear anything as, we emerge today from our homes. But so far, we have had about 13 injuries, but no death directly from the hurricane, but from the preparation of the hurricane.
Let's go further into, you mentioned preparation. And I saw some posts on Facebook that some people were not taking this storm seriously. In terms of preparation, was the mobilization of getting people to shelters, and people conform. Some was prefer to stay at home. Let us hear from that standpoint as to get people to safety. Mandatory evacuation was imposed. Speak to us from that standpoint, and where was that heavily concentrated?
Well, it was nationwide. Nationwide, but there are mainly 7 places that like Port Royal. You would have heard about Port Royal. Those, Rocky Point. Those were some of the flood-prone areas and the areas that would be most devastating. But it was just persons who were in low-lying areas. But we had about, the last count I heard was about 15,000 people in shelters. So people did some persons heed the warning, some did not. But for those who did not go, you can understand why. They weren't, it's not that they didn't want to go, but they were afraid that if they go to the shelter and leave their homes and properties, they might come back and find them vandalized and all of that, because, there are those who use these moment of disaster to do wrong and to steal. So those were some of the concerns that persons have. So it wasn't just that they were rebellious and didn't want to go, but
all right,
that is the situation.
Right. So Trinidad and Tobago is getting ready to send whatever assistance needed. What are some of the besides, food, clothing, we know water and so on. But what is the immediate need for most people who are homeless presently now? Construction materials would be needed also. But tell us basically what are the needs of your citizenry?
Well, as you say, you mentioned those, you main one. But I heard that we still have light, but up to the last count I heard yesterday, JPA said that they had about 560,000 persons that were without power in the country, which is about 70% basically of their thing. But when I'm looking over the city this morning, the city has light, but they are saying they have to rebuild some section of their grid and all of that. So those are concerns. We have to. Last year with Beryl, we had similar experience where, those parishes that were hit very hard from up to a month, they didn't receive electricity, and we can't survive and do much without electricity. So I believe those areas are areas that we need to, pray that they will get back up as quickly as possible. But as you said, the main thing would be, we're going to need a lot of support for those areas, that are devastated. And, those things, I leave those to the government to decide. But, it is really devastating. But the good thing is that once we survive a Category 5 hurricane, we still have hope, and the country is not totally wiped off the map. It's just a couple of the parishes that we have to focus on, which is good. Right. So, other part of the country like Kingston and St. Andrew and in this other St. Catherine and other areas can now rally to help those persons. And I think the diaspora is also weighing in, and I know we will get a lot of support. And
so you mentioned
Trinidad.
Yeah, you mentioned St. Catherine and those areas were not badly affected. What part of the parishes in Jamaica were not affected, and as you said, can help the rest of Jamaica that is not that has not been so lucky?
Well, the capital city, Kingston and St. Andrew, once your city is intact, then, we will rise. So, remember we have 14 parishes, and so we have most of those parishes, because like the eye of the storm, anything within 30 miles range would have been affected, so you would have had hurricane winds. So majority of the country would have just experienced tropical depression, or maybe hurricane about Category 2. But for countries that parishes that are close to Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, like Mandeville, some section of Montego Bay, those places would have been more heavily affected. So the rest of the country would have had impact, but not as devastating. So you should be able to recover in the other section in a faster way.
Okay.
I don't know what the road network looks like this morning, because when rain falls like this, you normally have serious road network, so problems and bridges and things. So I'm not able to do a full assessment of what is happening, even in Kingston and St. Andrew, where I live. But we'll be able to emerge sometime today, and I think the airport, especially Kingston, will be reopened by Thursday.
Great.
So business will go on.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so you mentioned hospitals were affected. What about churches and schools? Are those essential areas?
Yeah, right. Well, schools would be affected more in that area as we speak. Those parishes, yeah, I have seen schools affected. But most of our shelters, even in the corporate area, schools were used. So I'm thinking, I don't think you're going to have a lot of online schools at this time, because the schools in this corporate area and in other side of the country weren't affected. We didn't hear any such. Mainly, it's just the hospitals that we heard that were really, one hospital, most of the roof blown off. But I think the schools will be reopened shortly. I don't think they're going to have a long online schooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and just to the nations who would want to help, basically, I mean, I mentioned some of the food items. Obviously, we in Trinidad and Tobago is putting together maybe to get to you, boat or plane, whatever, with stuff. Basically, I mentioned food stuff, of course, clothing and so on.
Yeah.
Reconstructions of building is very critical, and so building material is one of the things that may be needed. You have to tell me, you have not gotten the time to assess what the needs are.
Right.
However, if you are given that you have this conversation now, and the world is listening, what are some of the needs you think would be most important at this point in time?
Yeah, but as I said, we're definitely going to need material, construction material, because, and we're going to need a lot of financial support and aids and all kinds of. We're just going to need every support that we can get at this time. We are not putting any limit on what support we are going to be getting, because as I said, there are persons who are going to need food, clothing. There are persons who have lost everything. They have lost their homes, everything. So people are going to need a lot of support. Anything that we can get, we are going to be grateful and we are going to be thankful. This is a disaster. We didn't ask for it. It came our way, and we are just grateful that lives were not lost. And so we just ask people to support, to give whatever they can give, cash, coin. We're going to accept people's donation right now and use it to help to rebuild our country.
Right. The flood-prone, the flood-prone areas.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. The flood-prone areas.
And one other thing.
Well, the Prime Minister did warn the citizenry to be mindful of alligators and other maybe sea creatures in the flood-prone areas that may have these creatures lurking. Has the water started to recede in the low-lying areas? Do you have any idea?
Well, as you know, now we're just waking up now, so we wouldn't have a lot of reporting going on now. But from what we had last night, we haven't heard anything like that. But as you know, the ground is very saturated because we had a lot of rain. The rain fall and it just sits there. So there's a lot of. So we would know all the damages until after and flooding that is taking place. Some places we couldn't go. There are bridges, there are roads that would have been inundated. We can't pass them, can't go into communities. So we will get a better understanding as we open up today and we, look around, we will know exactly what the damages are. So I guess we're just giving you, what we could tell you from yesterday's experience and what we saw from persons who were on the ground.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, we know Jamaicans are resilient people and will build themselves back. Will build themselves back, so to speak. And you all will rally together, and whatever assistance from the varying territories would be welcome, I'm sure. And so,
yes. And I want to use this opportunity to say that we'll be coming to Trinidad on the 14th of, I think it's the 14th of November for World Cup qualification.
Yes.
Be assured we will still be coming.
Yes.
We will still be coming, and we will be coming with Category 5 force at Trinidad.
I mean, we don't want to joke about it, but I like that you're in a good spirit, and that is a very good. That's a very good way to
We're
end.
not joking about it, but
Yeah.
we have to put a little laugh.
Of course.
We can't just sink ourselves into depression and allow this thing to capture us. We have still life.
All right. Well,
once you have life, there's hope.
All right.
God bless, man.
Yeah. Given that you're using a hurricane, we're gonna use a tornado and clean Jamaica out of the ballpark. We got to settle a score when you all come. All right, partner. But I really like you, and thank you. Thank you for adding that light side of it, and we look forward to that November. And trust me, November is not a good month with football in Trinidad and Tobago. You know, remember some years ago in November we had lost to the US. But anyway, we're gonna win, and we're gonna take.
And we have to. No man. We hope you allow us to win to make Jamaica cheer up. So if anything we ask is that you would allow us to make sure you don't come too hard at us, so we can win and qualify for the World Cup and bring some joy to Jamaica. So that's one of the ways you can give to us.
All right, my friend. I hear you, but we're going to be stingy in that regard. Thank you again. I like your spirit, and I want to wish all of you, and we are going to send what we can from this part of the country, of the world, and we just want our brothers and sisters to be okay there in Jamaica. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you too.
Indeed,
and
a
God
pleasure.
bless you. Look forward to meet you in the future.
Of course. All right. Take care. All right.